Welcome, everybody, and welcome to Deborah Fromm, our speaker today. So this is the first session for the winter term of the Latin American Anthropology Seminar. For any of you who are joining us for the first time, a particularly warm welcome. LAS is a London-based seminar hosted by CLACS at the University of London at the School of Advanced Studies. And it's a seminar for early career researcher anthropologists working in Latin America. So we've been online for a while now, which has been working really, really well because it means that we can have speakers like Deborah from Latin America and across the world, and also participants listening in from all over the world, which is really great. We have three conveners who jointly coordinate the seminar. Ainhoa Montoya at CLACS, Denise Roman at Aberdeen, and myself, Jessie Sclair, at Cambridge. And the seminar runs fortnightly on Thursdays at 5 p.m. UK time. So just to let you know that the next session will be on the 17th of February, and we'll be hearing from Andrea Gomez from UNAM, speaking about multiplicity of beauty and its incarnations through makeup use in Mexico City. And I believe Ainhoa is going to post a link to more information about that seminar for 2 weeks' time. So we would love to see you again if you'd like to join us again. And Ainhoa is also going to post a full program for winter term for the rest of the seminars. So I'm delighted to introduce our speaker today, Deborah Fromm from the University of Campinas in Brazil. Deborah will be speaking about insurance technopolitics, car theft, and contested governance of insecurity in São Paulo, Brazil. I'm particularly pleased to welcome Deborah because I've been hearing about this research on and off for a really long time, and I'm really pleased to hear about where it's at now and what kind of conclusions she and her colleagues are coming to. So Deborah is going to speak for around 45 minutes, and then we'll open up for a Q&A and aim to finish at around 6:30 p.m. If you have any questions while Deborah is speaking, please feel free to post them in the chat box and we'll come to them after. And then once we open up the Q&A, you can either post your question in the chat box and one of us will read it out, or you can just use the raise hand function and I'll call you up to ask your question in person. And we, just so that everybody knows, we are recording Deborah's talk and we'll be posting it on the CLACS website afterwards, but we won't be recording the Q&A session, so don't worry about speaking. You won't be recorded for that part. Okay, so I'll hand over to Deborah.
So hello, everyone. Good afternoon. For me, it's a pleasure to be here with all of you and sharing my research today. I would like to say thank you, especially to Jessie, but also Ainhoa and Denise for organizing this event, but also for organizing the seminar series. I have been attending the seminar since it is online, since 2020, I think. And I saw great presentations, and I think you are building a great space to connect researchers on Latin American studies. So thank you very much. I'd like to share with you my screen. So please, just a second. So today, the paper I will present is part of my PhD research on Brazilian insurance industry, but also part of a collective research on car theft in Brazil that will be published this year in the book Stolen Cars, A Journey Through São Paulo Urban Conflict. So here's the book. In the book, by using multi-site ethnography, we show how it works, the illegal car market in São Paulo, by questioning what happened after a car is stolen. So we were a group of 8 researchers, includes Janaina Maldonado. She's an author as well. She's here with us today. And we follow the journeys of 5 cars since the robbery or the theft occurred until their destinations. The destinations are like dismantling stores, shops, insurance companies, recovery, auctions, or being exchanged by cocaine in the Brazil-Bolivia border. So 8 researchers doing research in different sites. Some of them were working with criminals that used it to steal cars. I was doing the insurance industry events and also in auctions and with the police and many places that are important to the second-hand car value chain. And also we crossed the site. So every researcher passes through all the fieldwork sites. So in Brazil, approximately 500,000 vehicles are stolen per year. News sources regularly realize that this is equivalent to approximately 1 car theft every minute. So almost 50% of these thefts occur in the state of São Paulo. And car theft is perceived as a significant security problem in Brazil, capable of interlocking legal and illegal markets, the insurance industry, and public safety issues. So in my paper, I focus on the response of insurance company to this security problem, giving particular attention to the role of technologies in the process of vehicle recovery. More broadly, it explores how the car theft market, criminal logics, and disputes between private company and public security forces have become entangled with technologies. That is to say, how different actors seek technological solutions to achieve their objectives, and how power struggles become mediated by technology. Following Gabrielle Hatt's work, I try to understand technology as a mode of politics, rather than merely a tool of politics. In this sense, this paper tries to contribute to understanding how the creation and appropriation of security devices are integral to the production and urban governance of insecurity in São Paulo. There are few studies in the social sciences that focus on understanding the role private insurance companies play in public security governance. The insurance sector in general has been an object of interest for a few studies in philosophy, sociology, and anthropology. However, health and life insurance have received the greatest attention, meaning that this sector is most commonly analyzed based on its role in social protection and relationship to the development of the welfare states. Very little attention has been given to the car insurance market and its technopolitical implications for the government of urban security, especially in the global south. In the paper, I highlight the relevance of studies conducted on the insurance industry, particularly in contributing to an understanding of the technical and political process that are interconnected to the development of technologies and their public effects on security and individual privacy. I argue that the insurance industry provides a powerful case for understanding the process of securitization, as insurance companies act at the same time producing risks and threats and creating technologies to sell security and protection. In this paper, I analyzed the daily routine of a tracking team from a large insurance company that retrieves stolen vehicles in São Paulo, with an emphasis on their close and continual negotiations with the police, public authorities, and criminal actors. I propose the notion of insurance technopolitics to emphasize the conjunction between insurance rationality of risk government, as proposed in governmentality studies, and the creation of technologies that, when implemented, produce unexpected consequences. As will become clear, the insurers technologies of governance are a good example of technopolitics, a concept that captures the hybrid forms of power embedded in technopolitical artifacts, systems, and practice. The non-human technologies, such as tracking systems, telemetric apps, techniques for actuarial and risk analysis, among others, are central for coordinating human activities operating under their control. However, these technologies depend on the highly politicized relationships between human actors, who frequently subvert those technologies' intended purpose. Applying technopolitics to the operations of insurance company in the recovery of stolen cars, it became possible to map the power and impact of these companies on public safety issues. In our collective research, we understand car theft as both a problem and as a market, and I will use the term to refer to the appropriation of vehicles in general, including both theft and robbery. Brazilian legislation stipulates a penal differentiation between these two types of crime. There are also distinct criminal dynamics and technologies implicated in each of these activities, theft and robbery, which, as will become clear, impact upon strategies for vehicle recovery. Automobile theft requires greater expertise from the thief than robbery, which, on the other hand, is more violent and it usually involves the use of a firearm. In Brazil, there are three main destinations for stolen vehicles. One is the selling of auto parts in shops, the car dismantling shops. Two is the use of the vehicles to commit other crimes or for joyriding only, and to later be abandoned. And three, the exchange of the vehicle for drugs or weapons at the country's border with Paraguay or Bolivia. The city of São Paulo, Brazil's largest metropolis, has the most booming market of auto parts in the country. So here in the slide, we have two graphs, one showing the numbers of theft and armed robbery of vehicles in absolute numbers. So and the first, the red one, is in the United States, and the blue line here, it's Brazil. And in third place is São Paulo, the green, the dark green. And the second graph shows theft and armed robbery of vehicles, but the rate per 100,000 inhabitants. So the first one here in the top is São Paulo, and then the blue is Brazil, the blue. So you can see how important São Paulo is in the illegal car market, you know. Insurance company estimates that about 60% of cars is stolen in the city supply shops. I'd like to show a video. It's very short. I couldn't add subtitles, English subtitles, but I will explain the video afterwards. But even though it's in Portuguese, I think the images are very important to understand the research as well. So.
1, 2, 3, 50, pelo menos 100 carros destruídos. Cortam a frente toda, é difícil identificar, mas é um carro praticamente 0 km. Criminosos roubam os carros e trazem para cá, um lugar de difícil acesso no extremo da Zona Leste. Tiram o motor, as portas, os bancos, tudo que pode ser revendido ilegalmente. Depois, jogam as carcaças no barranco. Encontramos várias placas, todas de veículos roubados. Alguns há mais de um ano. Praticamente todos os dias chegam veículos roubados aqui. Por que a polícia não consegue identificar esses ladrões? Sendo que o caminho é sempre o mesmo.
So the video shows a place near a favela where stolen cars are discarded by criminals after being dismantled for illegal sales of parts. So there is the image showing the car dismantled. So there are several of these around the city, but especially in the east zone of the city of São Paulo, where most of the robberies are concentrated. So the journalist mentioned that they cut the front of the car to turn more difficult to identify the vehicle. But then next, he found many certified plates, license plates, and checked it in the government app and the government app in which the car appeared as stolen. So with his phone, he checked the certificate plate and he couldn't see that it is about stolen cars. So, and in the end, he finished with a very naive question, that is, why can't the police identify these thieves since the path is always the same? But in fact, what our research shows is that the police normally know this place very well, and they often know also who the criminals are. But as we will see, they have turned this into a private security service that is sold to insurance company and private owners. It is also known that in some cities, the car dismantling business is controlled by police officers who own the many shops. So considering the link between car theft and the informal auto parts markets, the representatives of the insurance sector invested resources and lobbied for the creation of a law that would control these activities. Referred to as the dismantling law and inspired by a law created in Argentina, the legislation proposed the regulation of activities related to dismantling cars and a system for tracking car parts based on tags that indicate to the consumer and local authorities the vehicle from which the parts originated and its legal status. The legislation aims to decrease car robberies and with this cheapen the cost of car insurance. It was first implemented in the state of São Paulo, and later in 2014, a similar version was created in the federal level. This piece of legislation, amongst many other examples, demonstrates the insurance company's capacity for mobilizing and exercising influence on public security at all levels of government. They are important actors in the policy-making process within which security interventions are planned. So since 2016, I have been conducting qualitative research on the insurance sector in Brazil. I conducted participant observation using a multi-sided approach, doing different events associated with car recovery and dismantling, and in different organizations and companies that make up the Brazilian insurance market. So between 2016 and 2019, I have been in several private events organized by the insurance sector, insurance companies, insurance brokers, unions, representative entities, etc. These events were privileged space for meeting people and networking. Normally in these events, I got several personal cards and I could contact people and arrange interview and informal conversations with insurance workers, insurance executives, and directors. I also have collecting secondary material produced by the insurance sector, like reports, pocketbooks, and financial literacy, etc. So since the pandemic started, I have been following the webinars organized by my interlocutors as well. Between April and June 2018, I made some visits to the Central Office for the Monitoring and Tracking Vehicles, COMTV, of a major insurance company in São Paulo and conducted some interviews in this building, the first image. So in Brazil, and primarily in São Paulo, cartels is a central concern for insurers. They have mustered resources and technologies for tracking and monitoring their clients and their clients' property. Upon being called, the insurance company becomes responsible for either paying indemnity or for recuperating and returning the vehicle to the insured, as long as the vehicle is in perfect condition. The nature of the insurance company is to offer financial compensation. What is insured has no relation to the injury the person experienced and suffered through, but rather a guarantee for capital loss. In the case of insurance for car theft, the event of violence suffered at the moment of the robbery or possible setbacks experienced as a result of the theft are not compensated by the insurance company. The conditions prior to the incident will never be reestablished. However, the insurance company guarantees compensation for financial loss that results from this event. It is estimated that the insurance sector estimates that in Brazil, 8 out of every 10 stolen cars have insurance coverage. One of the main insurance companies in the country alone has an average of 100 car thefts per day. More than 12,000 cars from this insurance group disappear annually. So a number of technologies are implemented by insurers seeking greater control and better calculation of risk. Vehicle tracking technologies are a good example of this. The insurance company's team that I accompanied opted to use radio frequency to retrieve the insured cars. As they explained it to me, the signals from these systems are more effective than others for tracking vehicles in tunnels and underground. According to the team, it is a system with less signal oscillation. Cars are monitored by the central team using Google Street View. So here I have 4 graphs showing the insurance sector in Brazil in the last 20 years. So the red portion is the auto insurance market, the car insurance market. So you can see that it's a very important market in the country. It used to be the biggest one, the main segment, but now it's decreasing, but it's still very important. And insurance for people, like life insurance and also health insurance, are increasing. But we have many robbers and theft, but the car insurance market is also too high and receive much premiums. So based on methodological strategies proposed by the ethnography of things approach, in the paper, I sought to follow the journey of a car from the moment it was stolen until it was recovered by the insurance company. The journey of a stolen car was developed fictiously based on data and typical case documented during research in the field. I do not describe a single individual Hyundai, but rather outline a feasible combination of real elements and subjects to reconstruct a typical trajectory. It was only thanks to this methodological strategy and proposal, the need to follow a car, that it was possible to connect the different points of the car theft market chain. Also, this approach is well suited to a theoretical framework focusing on the relationship between material objects and technologies and human beings. The methodological choice is linked to the technopolitics approach in the sense that the ethnography of things allows a closer look at how the technologies work or fail, but also how they escape the original intentions of their users to produce unexpected consequences. The Hyundai HB20 model was chosen because it is a popular car, widely sold and frequently stolen in Brazil. The HB20 model was developed by Hyundai specifically for the Brazilian market, with 100 of the vehicle produced domestically in one of the manufacturer's factories located in São Paulo. The lack of parts in the legal industry is a factor that increased the demand for auto parts in the illegal stolen car market. In this context, security governance cannot be thought of as a separate from the regulation of legal and illegal markets. I mean, the illegal markets and the legal market are not in separated worlds. They are entangled by economic dynamics, and one influences the other. William appears to be 17 or 18 years old, has a brown skin and shaved hair on the sides of his head. He's wearing a black sweatshirt and jeans pants. By means of a YouTube video, he teaches all the necessary procedures for stealing a Hyundai HB20 2014 model. First, he opens the car hood and exchanges the model for one he has at hand. This piece is considered the brain of the engine control unit and is responsible for a series of functions needed to control the vehicle. In order to start the car, a key that is appropriately coded to fit the newly annexed mode is used. In order to open the car, a bump key is used as well. William explains that right after exchanging the module, he must cut off the car horn's wire, because when I start the car in there, the car will honk and flash its lights 3 times. William explains that it takes an average of 30 seconds to execute all of the procedures and start the car. It is also common to use a car jammer, a tool that inhibits the tracking device signal. William will receive between $60 US or $100 US for the theft of a Hyundai HB20 from a car shop. Normally the car shop contract the guys who steal, like William, for example. So João is 35 years old and married. He lives in the city of São Paulo, and his Hyundai HB20 was stolen after he parked his car near a bus subway station in the northern region of the city. Upon returning to the location and realizing what had taken place, his first step wasn't to contact the police, but rather his insurance company, one of the leading companies in the market. His main objective was to recover the economic losses he suffered as a result of the seizure of his good. The police and the state could not guarantee this, but the insurance company could. The attendant informed João that an insurance claim had been filed, but that João still needed to contact the police immediately to file a police report, for this document would ensure that he would receive the indemnity. This would also ease the process for searching for the vehicle, for it would be reported and identified as stolen in both the government and the insurance company surveillance systems and apps. According to internal procedures, the insurance company quickly directed the claim regarding João Hyundai to its central office for monitoring and tracking vehicle, the ComTV team, by email. In ComTV, they have 2 teams that work together and are responsible for retrieving vehicles. They have a tracking device installed or not. The theft of a Hyundai HB20 is considered a typical case for the team. One of the staff members on the team argues that this is due to a lack of car parts in stock at car dealerships. One of the many connections between legal and car theft markets. Given the lack of car piece in the legal market, most of these stolen vehicles are destined for disassemblage. This fact results in a higher rate for insurance policies. So the insurance policy for Hyundai HB20 is super high in São Paulo because it is stolen a lot. So the data on João's car, the license plate, chassis number, and the street in which the car theft occurred were shared by the staff on their WhatsApp group so that the motorcyclists on the street could begin their search. This is a standard procedure, and the app is one of the main channels of communication amongst the team members. At the central, the staff is made up of approximately 20 technicians who sit at their individual computers in a large room with room dividers. On the street, motorcyclists carry out the search. 35 red response, the name given to people who search the car with a tracking signal, and 25 caçadores, hunters, responsible for retrieving cars without a tracking device. These are people with more experience in the field. Usually, these motorcyclists are paired together and responsible for specific areas of the city. Ricardo has been a red response on the team for about a year. His former job was a motorcycle courier. He claims to prefer his current job since he considers it to be calmer and says he receives more money. On average, he receives a salary of almost $1,000 per month. He provides service to the insurance company through temporary contracts that are renewed every 3 months. The insurance company does not formally employ him, therefore he does not have access to employee rights and benefits. He claims to drive about 70 kilometers per day, and he only is paid if he retrieves a car. So for each car he retrieves, he receives an amount of around $100 or $65 per car. His goal is to always receive 15 cars per month. He conducts searches in the city's East Zone, where he was born and lives to this day. His routine is to wake up early in order to leave his house by 6 a.m. And he said, before they, referring to neighbors who commit car thefts and robberies, wake up and drive around avenues where he knows cars are usually left to rest. In Portuguese, they say descansando. After a theft or a robbery, normally more commonly in theft cases, after the theft, the thief leaves the car taking a rest in some avenues, so they could, if the car has a tracker, the team will find the car, but they won't find the dismantling store, So after 2 days, if nobody comes to see the car, to find the car, I can take the car to be dismantled. So, and without exposing the address where the car will be dismantled. So a few characters call his attention and pinpoint the vehicles as suspect, which leads him to check the car license plates on the federal government app to see if it is singing. They say if it is cantando, which means if the car is stolen, the license plate will appear in the app as red. So the car is singing, they say. Cars that are beyond the neighborhood economic profile, broken car panels, blown airbags, cars that are dirty, poorly parked, or that lack wheels or tires. So those cars call the attention of the hunter, Ricardo. After conducting his morning search, he returns home to have lunch, and in the afternoon only leaves the house if he is contacted by the central office to find a specific car that the tracking device identifies as being in his region. Ricardo describes that some of his neighbors with whom he grew up and who are currently involved in crime have come around to his house to question him about cars he retrieved. According to his account, he told these occupants that the car had a functioning tracking device and that the company would retrieve the car and call the police anyway. However, in reality, Ricardo was able to find the vehicle because he already knows the locations used to disassemble cars or where cars are left to rest. For people involved in crime, it is best to avoid encounters and conflict with the police. The fact that Ricardo helps retrieve the car avoids searches and police operations within a given territory. On the other hand, the fact that his colleagues show up at his doorstep reveals tensions. There is a distrust that someone from the community, in this case Ricardo from the neighborhood, is acting against his peers' interests and percept. In other words, there is a tenuous line between Ricardo being considered an employee who acts correctly and as a result of his work helps to avoid conflict with the police, or a traitor who helps police and insurance companies find stolen cars and therefore hinders the business activities of his neighbors. Similarly, during field research, other cases of tensions and conflicts between the company's motorcyclists and agents from the world of crime occur during search taking place in peripheral neighborhoods. Cases of employees being chased down or motorcycle robberies occurred frequently. This is the reason why all motorcycles also have tracking devices and are monitored by the central office. The tracking device has always become an important technology used against insurance fraud. ComTV has employees who are specialized in investigating frauds. At the moment that a claim is filed, if there is any suspicion of fraud, particularly in case involving high-value vehicles, an investigation process begins within the insurance company. The client's personal data is pulled up. In other words, the company investigates if the person is in debt, the company or real estate of the man may owe, or if there is a judicial process in place. Part of the investigation process involves tracing the vehicle's movements over the last few months. It is common to discover during the investigation that the client went by dismantling car dismantling shops on the days or weeks preceding the reporting of the claim. The staff already knows of a large portion of these clandestine dismantling shops and can see their storefronts using Google Street View. They know where the clandestine dismantling shops are. In this case, a report is written up with all the suspicions and evidence collected. In most cases, these information cannot be used judicially against a client. It is most common for the company to pay the indemnity and put to place the client's name on what they call a blacklist. Therefore, the next time the person tries to buy insurance from the same insurance company, the police amount will be exorbitant or insurance will be denied. And also they use the data collected with the tracker on advertising and publicity and other sectors of the using company. So they can see the movement of the clients around the city and they can think about putting billboards in some specific place for some specific client profile. João's car does not have a tracking device, but his car was retrieved by the team in the city of São Paulo. Cartels such as the suffered by João are considered harder to retrieve since the client often takes a while to realize what's taking place and to call the police or insurance company. And after the insurance company retrieve the car, they pay the indemnification for the clients and they sell those cars in auctions. There are many auctions occurring every day, car auctions occurring every day in São Paulo City. And in the book, we explore how much money insurance company and auctioneers, especially in Chapter 4, make selling stolen cars, reselling stolen cars. So Ricardo claims that the company usually holds events in which people who most retrieve cars receive prizes such as iPhones and laptops. According to him, the motorcyclists who most retrieve cars are those with privileged access to information from contacts or informants in the police. For example, he narrated to me the case of 3 cars stolen on an avenue near the airport. First, 2 adolescents robbed a woman who was sitting alone in the car, taking her Toyota. The Toyota was used to commit 2 further car robberies. Coincidentally, all 3 cars were insured by the same insurance company. The information was provided by a hunter before the company knew the fact. In other words, the police had been informed through an emergency call to 190. It's the emergency number here if you have an emergency and you need to call the police. And the information was passed along by the police officer directly to the hunter. As this suggests, individuals operating at the street level of this market traverse the lines that separate public and private security, posing challenges to state sovereignty. The fact that insurance companies pay police officers a reward for recovering vehicles is a known practice commonly spoken in the field. In the insurance company where this research was conducted, employees explained that it was common for police officers to line up in front of the company's building to receive their rewards. They were seen in uniform and with the police cars. However, more recently, the head of the car tracking team claimed they avoid contact with the police because of the new anti-corruption legislation. To conclude, the article addressed the role of the insurance industry in the global market for the protection of assets. This is a market that includes private, public, and criminal actors who are struggling to wide coercive capacity and to accumulate capital. Insurance technopolitics is at the center of the government of urban security and insecurity, in which technologies for managing risk and tracking device have gained increased preeminence. The notion of insurance technopolitics thus adds new light to our understanding of security. It is a paradigmatic example of securitization in the sense that combines simultaneously practices that produce and control risks. Moreover, in security studies about Latin America, we often see state sovereignty being challenged by illegal armed groups, but the case analyzed here teaches us that private companies and their technologies, as well as members of the police force themselves, also challenge state sovereignty. The insurance company's technologies of governance provide valuable insights in the interlinkage between social order and technology. They reveal how the regulation of the illegal car theft market is co-produced by non-human things, tracking device, risk analysis systems, apps, jammers, and cameras, amongst others, and highly politicized relationships between human actors. And this analysis highlights the political qualities of material objects and local alliances and disputes between agents from the states, the private sector, and criminal world. So the insurance company's technopolitical interventions, in addition to reducing risk of financial loss for the insurers and the insured customers, also alter the logics of security. When, on the one hand, as an institution, the police force formally states to insurance company that it does not have the necessary or effective resource for tracing and searching for vehicles, and claims that it gives priority to crimes against life. However, as seen above, police officers that act as private agents are constantly involved in the activities for searching and retrieving stolen vehicles. They pass along information, receive rewards, open specialized companies, and some they make use of the structure and networks created by the public apparatus for private profit. On the other hand, the public police force is not able to solve and investigate all crimes so as to return stolen vehicles to the insurance company. This becomes the reason for why insurance companies invest and develop their own structures for dealing with the issue of car theft and therefore minimize financial losses. Such activities associated with lobbying initiatives and partnerships with public security sectors make evident their role in the governance of insecurity beyond the state, consolidating a context of fragmented sovereignty in which the state is not the only legitimate normative regime. So thank you. I am excited to hear some feedbacks, and if you have questions or want to get in touch.